in case you were not at the other talk, I'm the vice president of Jam City. I've had the pleasure of working at really amazing companies through the years, from MySpace, which was my very first job, to Ubisoft, Gameloft, TinyCo. We were acquired a couple of years ago by Jam City, and now I work out of our LA headquarters. It's a fantastic company. Just a quick disclaimer on this talk. This does not reflect Jam City's position on blockchain. We're always open to understanding what are the trends, where the market is heading. Those are my personal thoughts, and I just wanted to make very clear that I don't want you to perceive that in any way this represents my company's perspective. They're mine and mine alone, so if I say something dumb, it's just on me. So really, I became a specialist at one thing. It's making really successful game out of IPs. I've had the pleasure of working with amazing partners like Oregon Trail, Ice Age Village, Futurama, Avengers, Family Guy. There's a couple of here that I did not list. I think it's such a great time in your life when you can't fit all the games you worked on a page. And I realized that for the first time doing this presentation. And obviously recently we released Harry Potter, the first ever Harry Potter game on mobile, and the first that adds kind of story to the canon of Harry Potter, which my nephew is still talking about in his own school. So that's it. I wanted to talk about mobile app store in the blockchain age. We obviously work a lot with Apple, we work a lot with Google, so sometimes we have drinks, and sometimes we get drunk, and sometimes we talk about hey, what do you think about blockchain? So it's a bit of everything I've accumulated in my discussion with those guys, and also in my own research, and seeing is there a trend for us? So mobile games, to this day, it's 90% of Google Play revenue. It's 75% of the App Store revenue. Tons of money. However, blockchain games represent less than 0.01% of that revenue. I was being very generous because I just looked at kind of the top 20 blockchain themed, because I say themed because most of them don't really leverage the technology. It's more, a game where you're going to do some minor achievements and you get 0.01 BTC. But really, there's nothing on the App Store, so much so that even one of the biggest game, I think it's called Itaraki Dungeon, maybe you guys can correct me on that, they actually stopped the partnership with BTC. You used to be able to gain BTC through this game, and now you don't. So here are some of my additional thoughts. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button, obviously. When you go, so obviously I'm going to talk about the other stores, but my priority here is the stores that exist, that everybody knows, not just you guys who are part of the technical and technological elite. I'm just saying random, mom and pop out there, Jane and Joe. The problem is just there's a lack of quality game, right? It's not just about the technology. At the end of the day, what we're providing our consumers, it's entertainment, it's achievement, it's social link. And at this point, none of the games really reach, I would say, even the kneecap of the current quality bar that we see on the App Stores. Really boring game, really low quality. And most of those, like I was saying, they don't leverage the true values of the technology, and they could work without cryptocurrency itself. It's just I'm going to put it on, it's going to drive some installs, and great. Perfect example, I think Alien Run is one of the most successful games that technically leverage the technology. Lifetime downloads, 30K. Revenue estimated by Sensor Tower at $0. I think that says it all, right? If I released a game that had that low downloads, I would just be fired, I would never work in the game industry again. But it's also even outside of mobile, right? Remember last year when CryptoKitties was the darling of the game industry? They were just so popular. I think they raised close to $12 million. But when you look now at the volume, it's just it totally tanked. If you go to the APP review, apparently they are listed as DAU 519. It's a trend, right? It's hype, it's a fad. At least the technology is not a fad, but the game part, I think, right now was a fad, and we haven't seen it bounce back. Really, what are the values of blockchain for games? It's ownership, right? It's what is mine is mine. I can utilize it the way I want. I can redistribute it. I can trade it. I can sell it. And none of the games that exist right now on mobile allow you to do that. The only thing you can do is really acquiring some minor BTC. And then it's fraud prevention, right? If a consumer spends, we know that it's a real spend. If the consumer trade, we know it's a real trade. And the last thing is really for friction. It's frictionless in-game payments. So right now it takes about 30 to 60 days for us as a developer to really be paid by Apple or Google. And there's a lot of like cashbacks, and it's a very complex process. For small developers, 60 days, sometimes it's like life or death, basically. You may run out of money, you may not be able to like do payroll, but with blockchain, obviously, you're going to see the revenue come in like 30 to 60 hours. So you know that the money is real and it's in your bank account. So the industry challenges at this point is, one, we're still at a very early stage. There's a lot of public game chains and side chains, but there's no universal standard, right? I think for consumers, it's very important to understand, hey, there are standards that are applied throughout, and I trust those standards. Not great game, that's what I was saying already, and a lack of development understanding. You know, as a developer, it's very hard to find quality talent. It's very difficult, it's very expensive, it's a real challenge. And I'm sure, and I'm not an expert on like cryptocurrency hiring itself, but I expect it's the same. So finding people that have that double expertise of blockchain technology, cryptocurrency knowledge, plus game development, maybe there's like 2 guys out there. And so without that talent that takes years and years to build, it's very difficult to foresee that in the next few years we're going to see really successful products. And the last thing is really no consumer trust, right? I think we've seen it this year. Everybody was expecting kind of cryptocurrency to like bounce back. I think people got burnt. And they're going to have a hard time believing that cryptocurrency can be applied in their everyday life, or they don't necessarily see the value right now. So that's going to take a couple of years. I believe it's going to happen, but I'm not sure that it's going to happen in games first. I think it's going to come from the consumer sector first, potentially some of the big players like Amazon or eBay, where people are going to start interacting, spending that currency, using it every day, and then they're going to understand the technology. And then game design challenges, that's, to me, the hardest one, right? Games and blockchain have 2 different promises. Blockchain, it's a common agreement on what is immovable and what is modifiable, right? If you get a specific item, there's the promise that this item is not going to change, that I can't like depossess you of it, or that I can modify the values, right? If the damage of the sword is 100, but suddenly for balancing purposes, I change it to 20, then is it really blockchain? Like I've just devaluated the currency that you have in your hand. And for gaming, it's really about evolving fun. It's understanding, hey, we made a mistake here. This level is too difficult. This model, it's too easy. We need to put a new card in Clash Royale so that there's like that rock, paper, scissors setup. I think for players, the proof of scarcity of assets and the ability to resell is not really a consumer driver. I think the first driver, we always have to like remind ourselves, it's fun. And if we don't provide the fun, if the fun is not renewed constantly, we're not going to see like blockchain-based games on mobile being successful. Now, the real kicker. It's the store positions, right? Good luck to the other stores out there. I know a lot of people are trying. It's going to be really tough. So here are Apple's guidelines. They updated them a couple of months ago, but in case you don't know about it, design your app to power efficiently. Apps should not rapidly drain battery, generate excessive heat, or put unnecessary strain on device resources. Apps, including any third-party advertisement displayed within them, may not run unrelated background processes, such as cryptocurrency mining. I love that they're like, hey, just in case you're unclear, we're really talking about you guys right now. So yeah, they want to prevent batteries usage, but I think there's like deeper reason, and the deeper reasons are later down in the guidelines, which is like apps may facilitate virtual currency storage, provided they are offered by developers enrolled as an organization. So yeah, companies like, you know, what's the name again? Anyway, you can buy and you can resell via an authorized distributor. You can't mine, we said about it, but then there's the real one. It's apps may facilitate transactions or transmission of cryptocurrency on an approved exchange, provided they are offered by the exchange itself. And the word exchange is really what matters here. They don't consider a video game an exchange. I'm going to talk about it a little later. Google will follow suit. There's a ton of fairly debatably fraudulent apps that did that cryptocurrency mining on your device. Yes, they do regularly clean up the store, but I think more and more they're going to try to protect their user base, because their user base is really where the value lies for them. So both stores, Apple and Google, have shared interests. One, they're going to naturally want to protect their revenue share, that famous 30%, and prevent the rise of external stores. Fortnite is the only example that was able to kind of like bypass Google. I don't think King, I don't think us, Jam City, I don't think anybody in the business is at a place where we can dismiss them, right? We work with those guys, we need the featurings, we want to gain visibility. So being present and winning on those big stores is where we see the biggest yield. And so I don't believe that they're just going to allow kind of like those new ways of generating revenue outside of their own platform. If you're not Netflix, if you're not Spotify, there's no way you can do it. So recently there was a case where Warrider was removed on Apple as they do not allow wallet apps which allow users to buy, sell, or trade crypto within the app. That's it. Sadly, there's not a crazy takeaway out of this whole presentation. If Apple says you can't do it, well, I'll wait for Apple to change their policy, but I would not be the first person to try to like change it inside the store or even outside in like third-party stores. So my takeaway is like, where next? If you can't make a game without the true values of the blockchain, why try to like be in this market? If you can't gain like visibility on the big stores, your product is just not going to succeed. Sure, you can do some like Facebook ads or like Google ads, but it's going to be very difficult to pierce. And here's my takeaway: just the market is not ready. I think we need to wait for the consumer to gain that trust, to use it in a more like daily way, and they're finally going to be potentially start to change the culture around blockchain. But for mobile, I don't think we're there yet. And that's it. Thank you so much. I hope it was not too depressing.
Good, thanks, Jeremy. So questions, we have a few minutes for questions. If you agree or perhaps disagree with Jeremy's take on that, which, I don't know if that's
it's hard to disagree with the guideline, right?
or a realistic take, I don't know. Say who you are, please.
Nicolas Sierot from Everdreamsoft. What do you think of the structure when you have a mobile game, one application, a mobile wallet with the token usable in the application, and all the trading orders, send orders, done decentralized, I will say, on the outside of the two applications? Do you think it will work?
It's like, so I used to be a lawyer a while back. That's at least a lawyer. I passed the bar back in France. Until there's a precedent, I don't know. If you want to try, go for it. I've got a hard time picturing it because it would require such a deep integration. I don't know. I don't have a perfect answer. We did it. And did it work for you?
Yes.
What's the game?
The game is Spell of Genesis. The mobile wallet has 15 game and collection, and the transaction, the send, are done on counterparty Bitcoin, decentralized.
And have you seen like successful revenue?
The revenue is, before launching the game, we sold more than 300K of the cards outside of the game.
Sure, when was it?
So that's it. Naturally, it's an experiment. So on the blockchain side, it's efficient. We have to do what all other games have to do. It means making user acquisition, I will say, for normal players, for the balancing of the game between the two segments, the blockchain gamer and the normal gamers.
That's great. Well, thanks. I've learned something. Yeah. So,
but it's true. We are at the beginning and trying. It's not easy.
Nicolas, you have had some problems with particularly Apple, haven't you? You found Google to be a bit more accessible in terms of how your ecosystem runs.
The problem we had with Apple is they rejected the mobile wallet as an application. We made a web app. Interestingly, they were trying to understand. At the end, they rejected the application because they say we don't have the IP of the image of the other collection. Even we have the contract with them. So it was more with Apple, when you come with novelties, the first check is a cross-check, and we were rejected for that. But
cool. Well, I'll check.
No, but it's sure. Managing the App Store and Play Store is part of the game.
Yes, well, we'll maybe find a bit...